Met this afternoon at 5 o'clock, decorated the bags for the fruit baskets, and Ashley says that she will take care of getting them ready Friday. We need everybody to bring fruit by Wednesday so we can have it here at the building. We'll know if we need to get anything else. Friday evening, meet here at the building at 5 o'clock, young people and anyone else who wants to go. 5 o'clock at the building, and then we'll bring your supper with you. We'll eat that, and then head out and deliver the baskets, hopefully by 5:30. If you are a senior and you are not going to be home to receive your basket, please let me know. So far we have 2 who told me that they will not be home. If your basket's not delivered to you, they'll be in the kitchen, and we'll try to have them delivered to you Sunday morning. The ladies' ornament exchange, December 20th, 6:30 at Paget's home. Ladies, you're asked to bring an ornament wrapped in a pair of socks, as well as finger foods to share. I understand that sometimes you put candy in the socks also, so don't forget to do that. If you have extra, just leave it in the slot by my office. The camp need for the cabin, we need $3,300 more to finish that up. We've already written a check for $10,000, but if you could help with that $3,300, then that will take away from what we have to take out of the treasury. And if you can do that, please see me. Thomas Lee, this is Brittany's brother. He's on the prayer list now. He's having surgery in January. No, your mother's having surgery in January. He's having family difficulties, okay? All right. Anything else we need to announce before we begin this evening? Good to see Brother Rod out again tonight. He had surgery on Friday. We had a miscommunication on that. I thought he told me the 10th, but he's already had the surgery, so you don't have to have surgery tomorrow, Rod. That's a plus. Good. Of course, I may have to come sit with you all day, because that was what I planned on doing anyway. Last week, we began a lesson talking about what we should give our children. And it was a little longer than I thought. It was supposed to be a 30-minute lesson. So far, this will be the 3rd segment of this series. But we'll try to finish it this afternoon. You know, we begin to think about Christmas especially. We think about giving gifts or birthdays, we give gifts. And we begin to think, what should I get? What should I get? In fact, I heard that today. I don't know what to get this person. I don't know what to get that person. And by the way, I'm selling gift cards still for the camp. So if you're going to use gift cards, get me your list this week and I can get them to you. Even though we got the pool paid for, there's a lot of other stuff we got to pay for. So just remember, I'm still selling those cards. But we're trying to decide what we're going to get someone, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think sometimes, well, you know, I think somebody would like this or that, and excuse me, but it doesn't matter what we give that's of a physical nature. That really doesn't matter so much as what about a spiritual nature. And we talked about several things that I believe we need to give our children, especially our children, and maybe even each other, to help them see the importance of God in their life and to keep them pointed towards heaven. Our young people face a lot of things today. A lot of things that some of us have faced, but we faced it at a little older time in our lives, perhaps. It may have been even high school we began to face different things, but now elementary school is not unheard of for the things that our children face. And so we need to work with them constantly, helping them to see the importance of God in their lives. There are so many things to get their attention. You know, I'm not opposed to video games as long as they're, you know, not ugly, immoral type games of that nature. But, you know, while games are important and to the kids and stuff, we need to make them see that God's more important than all those things. Well, let's continue tonight. There's something I think we can give our children that's far more important than any of the physical things we can give them. We need to give them the proper example. I always like to go to Abraham here because, you know, I would love God to be able to say this about me. In Genesis 18:9, he said of Abraham, he said, "For I know him," and understand God knows all of us. But he said that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, and the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. Fathers, wouldn't you love to know that God says that about us? As we go into life and with our children, he knows that we're going to guide our household properly. You know, I talked about this morning, that weight of responsibility that comes on us when we realize, wait a minute, we're bringing a life, we're bringing a soul into this world. And the importance of setting the proper example before them goes without saying. I've used this illustration before. There was an anti-cigarette commercial, and it showed a father hiking through the woods with a little boy, and I don't know how old the little boy was, probably about William's age, or might be Jacob's age, but probably William. And the father sits down by a tree, and the little boy sits down by the tree, and the father crossed his leg, the little boy crossed his leg. The father reached into his pocket and pulled out a cigarette and lit that cigarette. And guess what? The little boy was playing like he was smoking a cigarette. You see, that example is set. That example is set so that, you know, it's instilled in the minds of little ones. And so we have to be careful of the example. What about the things we say and how we say them? I wasn't perfect at this, still not perfect at this, still working on it. But the way we say things and the way we do things as parents, that's a gift that we need to think about how we're giving to our children in this way, so that they will want to do justice and judgment, to keep God's way as they go into life. Some of y'all are getting to that scary age where the children are about to leave the nest. Now, some people say, "Oh, I can't wait for that." Well, wait till the day comes. And it's not as easy as you think, and then you have to be concerned, did I do everything? Did I set the right example so they're going to continue following God? Not all young people do that. We lose people from the church. I told you of an article I read a few months back, how that they say that usually by middle school we've already lost the children from church if we're going to lose them. Oh, they're still coming, but when they get to college, they don't go anywhere. But we lost them back in middle school. We just didn't know it. And that's something to think about. So I think one of the greatest things we can give our children, well, one of the things we've been talking about, is a proper example. We need to show them a strong faith. 2 Timothy 1 and verse 5, notice, he said, "When I call to remembrance the unfeigned faith that is in thee," he's talking to Timothy, Paul is, he said, "which dwelt first in thy mother Lois, in thy grandmother Lois, and thy mother Eunice. And I am persuaded is also in thee." Now, what kind of faith are we giving our children? Do we show them that I don't care what comes against us, our faith is strong, we're going to pull together as a family, and we're going to put our trust in God, and we'll get through these times? Now, there are a lot of hard things happening in life. But if we're going to give them the proper example, we've always got to show them God's where we need to be resting our trust. I see people all the time worrying about this or that, and they don't know about this, they don't know about that, and they're thinking about all this, and my question always in my mind is, well, did you take it to God? You know, and do you show if we don't take things to God, we're not showing the strong faith we're supposed to have in God. And I think one of the greatest gifts we can give our children is a proper example of a strong faith. And then chapter 3, verse 15, you recall the rest of this, "And that from a child thou hast known the Holy Scriptures, which were able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Christ Jesus." Where did that come from? That came from the grandmother and the mother's faith in God that they had, teaching it to young Timothy. And he was able to say, "From a child thou hast known the Holy Scriptures." Now, I tell you, I'm proud of these kids. When they come up over here, and I know some of y'all got older, and there's nothing wrong with that. You've got older, and you passed on through the class, but you know, and I really like you adults helping us out in the songs and things. I looked back there a while ago, Miss Carolyn was back there singing the books of the Bible. And I love that. That's an example for these kids, that they see this is something that means something to us. And we're going to have a faith that's strong, and God's going to come first no matter what. That's something we need to work at giving our children. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 11 and 12, But thou, O man of God, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. He said, fight a good fight of faith, lay hold of eternal life, whereunto thou hast also called, and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses. Paul was even telling Timothy, young people, you listening? You set a good example. Now we're talking about what we can give our children, but young people, you can give your friends and your brothers and sisters, even your parents sometimes. You know, sometimes parents make mistakes. We do. But what a great thing it is when we have a young person who has a faith that's strong and they say, Mom or Dad, I think we need to look at the Bible and see about this. You can do that. But you see, this strong faith that we need to have is a strong faith we've got to pass on to our children. Now, if you spend all your time with work, or you spend all your time with recreation, and you don't spend time with God and showing your children that God's important, you're not doing them a benefit. You're not helping them see what they need to see. They need to see God in us. That's a great gift that we can give to our children. We not only need to show them that strong faith, but we need to show them that's a working faith. In James 2:17 and 18, notice what James said here. He said, so that faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. He said, yea, a man may say, thou hast faith and I have works. He said, show me thy faith without thy works, and I'll show thee my faith by my works. Do you believe we can accomplish something? Well, if you never believe it, it's not going to happen. I read a story one time about it, and I've used this before too, but I think it's a great illustration. There was a drought in an area, and this was back in the day of horse and buggy, and there was a drought in the land, and the congregation came together, and they decided they was going to have a prayer meeting asking God to let it rain. Their crops were dying. And so they all gathered there at the church building one day, and they went into the building, and then here comes this old gentleman, and he, I don't know how old he was, they talked like he was fairly old, and he got there, and the first thing he did was reached up and reached under the horse, unstrapped the saddle, and took the saddle off, and brought it to the building and laid it down. They said, what are you doing? He said, are we praying for rain? I don't want to get my saddle wet. Now see, that's a faith. He wasn't just saying prayers. He had a faith God's going to hear our prayers. He wanted to be ready for that. Well, that's the kind of faith we got to have. We got to show our young people that we've got a working faith. What's the church doing this week? Well, I want to be a part of it. What's the church doing this next year? I want to be a part of it. We're going to be a part of it. See, if we don't show them it's important to show up to activities the church does, why are they going to be interested? If we just say, well, you know, those other people can do that, that's the way our kids are going to be. You see, we need to show them a strong faith, but we need to show them a working faith. In Matthew 25:34, you're familiar with the passage. The king shall say to them on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. And notice what he says. I was hungry, you gave me meat. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, you took me in. Naked, you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. That's the things, just ordinary things, that God expects us to do as his children. Let me stop for just a moment. I've not been able to do some of the things that I really like to do and pride myself in being able to do sometimes and helping people, and it bothers me. But let me ask you a question. When's the last time you visited one of our members who are shut-ins? When's the last time you went and visited somebody who was sick other than your family? When's the last time you went and helped somebody who you knew needed help? You see, we need to show a strong working faith, which means I'm going to show my children this is how we operate. I appreciate several of you. I've heard you say, I've seen you do things that's the way it ought to be. You know, we had the hurricanes come through, and several of you volunteered to help me do what you could to help. That's the way it ought to be. We need to show our children. This is one of the greatest gifts we can give them. You know, they may not like it as much as they would I don't know, Xbox, whatever it is now. I don't even know what they're doing now. They may not not enjoy it as much at the time, but if we'll show them a working faith, helping out the congregation, helping when people are down and needing our help, if we'll show them that's what we do, they're going to appreciate that one day. They're going to say, that's the thing I need to do. That's one of the greatest gifts we can give our children. We need to show them a working faith and willing to teach. 2 Timothy chapter 2, 24 through 26. And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men. Notice, apt to teach, patient, in meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves. If God peradventure will give them repentance to the knowledge of the truth, that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, or taken in captivity by him. We think about at his will. We think about this passage. Do our children see that we're apt to teach? Now, I think this next year we're pretty well good on teachers, but let me ask you a question. We put that list up there. Are we showing our children, a strong faith, a working faith, when week after week we have to announce that we need teachers, we need teachers, we need teachers? I want you to think about this. You see, if I don't volunteer to teach, when I have that ability, if I don't volunteer to teach, I'm showing my children it's not all that important. But you know, I remember my children being in those classes, and I sure appreciate those parents, those teachers who taught. I appreciate the lessons they learned. I appreciate those little things they brought home that eventually got thrown away, but they brought it home and they were so proud of what they did. Some teachers spent time getting ready for that. You see, we need to show our children. We need to give them this example. This is worth more to them than anything we can give them physically. We need to think about that. We need to show them that they need to give to God. That they need to give to God. 2 Corinthians 9, 6 and 7. Now, I know I talked about this a little bit earlier in the lesson, and maybe this is part of a repeat, but the Bible repeats things sometimes for emphasis, so maybe this is for emphasis. Paul was writing here to the brethren of Corinth. He said, But I say unto you, he which soweth sparingly shall also reap sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall also reap bountifully. Every man according as he purposes his heart. So let him give not grudgingly or necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. If our children don't see us giving to God every week as God has commanded, or if they see us giving to God grudgingly, you see, we're not showing them the right way. We need to show them that we willingly set aside money we're going to give to God. And we need to let them know, we've set this aside. This is what we give to God. We don't really care what happens. We're giving this to God unless we just have no money left. This is God's part. I see people sometimes reaching their billfold and just search through it and you know, they're looking through there and they're trying to say, well, what should I give? $1, $10, $5, $20, $50? What should I give? That should have already been decided. You see, my children, they saw that we give every week. And I told you this before. Susie gives $1. Every week she gives $1. Now, I give the check mainly unless I'm out of place and she gives the check. You say, well, I don't see any sense in that. Maybe you don't, but we did. We saw an example need to be set. And now, the younger people get to see that. Now, I may be in trouble for mentioning a name from the pulpit again, but I want us to see something here. These little eyes are watching us. You know, as a child, we had amen corners in our building. Now, some of y'all don't know what an amen corner is. But a building would be built like this, and they put 3 pews over here, 3 pews over here, and most of the older men sit here. That was the amen corner. There's nothing in the Bible about it. It's just what it was. And the preacher would say something, and then you'd hear the amens coming from that. You'd hear something from out here, but those were the amen corners. One of our elders used to sit up there close to the front. He'd take that New Testament out, and he'd take the little notepad out, and when the preacher was preaching, he was writing, he was looking up verses. I've never forgotten that. Now, honestly, when I first saw him do this, I said, don't he trust the preacher? Well, he trusted the preacher. He was studying with him. You see, he was taking part in what was going on. Little eyes see. They see things. Well, if we don't teach them as a parent and teach them the idea that we need to give of our means to God as we can, not all that important. Now this is an example we need to set. And we're blessed having several people who have money enough to give quite a bit. We're blessed with that. In years to come, that may not happen. And if we're just relying on what other people are giving for the church to work, it's not going to work out. Not going to work out. So we who are younger need to think, and I'm including myself there right now. We who are younger need to think, can I give more to God? Can I help with the work more? You see, that's a gift we can give to our children, as the gift we give to God. We need to teach them this in James 2:14 through 17 again. Again, we can say, well, look what the church is doing. Well, wait a minute, aren't we part of the church? What does it profit, brethren? A man say he hath faith and hath not works. Can faith save him? And notice what he says here. If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of food, daily food, and one say unto him, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled. Notwithstanding, you give him not those things which are needful for the body, what does it profit? Even so faith that hath not works is dead and being alone. We talk about all the great works, and we're so glad the church is doing this, we're so glad the church is doing that. Well, wait a minute. We're part of the church. Here's a gift we can give our children. Teach them that we are part of the work. Oh, I can't give $1,000 to this effort. I can't give $500. Can you give $1 to that effort? Remember over in Mississippi, I've talked about him once or twice before, but he always thought the rich people in the congregation were going to hell. In fact, he just about tell you that. And I tried to get him to see, even though he may only have $10 to give, that $10 is $10 the Lord prospered him, and he had it to spare, he could give it to God. And it took about 3 years for me to ever get across to him that we work with what we got. If I make $1 million, that's what I work with. If I make $10,000, that's what I work with. And I give a portion to God. Now, we don't have to give percentages like we did in the Old Testament, but we give from the heart. Well, we need to look at that. But again, the idea is we need to teach our children that they need to give to God and make sure they remember that. Well, so what we need to give our children? Well, here's some things generally as we finish up here. We need to give them some time. We need to give them some time. Proverbs 23:24 through 26. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he begetteth a wise child shall have joy in him. Thy mother and thy father shall be glad, and she shall bear thee. She that beareth thee shall rejoice. My son, give me thy heart, and let thy eyes observe my ways. We need to give children our time. Now, I know, young couples especially, you're busy making a living, and you're thinking about all these things. But sometimes you got to turn around and say, wait a minute, I've got a family here. I was blessed to have a family member who put me up against a wall sometimes and remind me that I've got a family. A lot of preachers lose their children. Left and right, I can name preachers who've lost their children. They saved a lot of people, but they lost their children. Think about, what if he lost his family? You see, we got to give our children some time. Oh, I don't have time to mess with getting down to the floor and playing with this or doing that. Why not? I used to be a scout leader, y'all know that. When I was a Cub Scout leader, when I was a pack leader, I had to become a child. I sang some songs that y'all think were the stupidest things you ever heard. Yes, I said stupid. But the kids loved it. You had to get down on their level. And if he's going to be successful as a leader, as an inlet, you had to get down there with the children. Be on their level. Well, our own children, we got to do the same. What are they interested in? Well, they're interested in sports. Well, can you help them with their sports? When's the last time you got out in the yard and threw a ball back and forth to your son or daughter? When's the last time, dads, did your little girl look at you? And I know we don't have many little girls, and she wanted to play dolls. Well, nothing wrong with playing dolls, if that's what they want to do. But you got to give them some time. Well, we need to be there a lot to God. We need to be there a lot. We can't forget this passage of Scripture. We looked at it there from Matthew chapter 5 or 6, I believe it's 5, he said, "You have light of the world, city set on him cannot be hidden." You know the passage, I want to get to the point here. We've got to be the light shining brightly for our young people, for our children. That's a gift you can give. That means you be the best Christian you can be, the best Christian mom, the best Christian daddy that you can be. You've got to show that light to them. My light wasn't always bright. Sometimes it had to be clean. And if that light needs to be cleaned in our lives, let's clean that light and let's be the light to God that we need to be for our children. That's one of the greatest gifts you can give those young people. Well, there's nothing wrong with giving gifts. I said that at the beginning. Nothing wrong with that. But we don't need to forget what really is the important thing. And the important thing is the spiritual gifts we can give them. We don't need to spend more time trying to get them the right gift than we do in making sure we give them the most important gift. I asked this 2 weeks ago. You spend a lot of time thinking about what you're going to get your children this season. Unless you're just an odd parent. You spend a lot of time on that. But how much time do you spend thinking about how can you help your children spiritually? And what can you give them? And what we talked about is worth more than all the gifts we can get. Well, what should we give our children? Well, these are just a few ideas. I know it took us a while to get through it, but I think these are things that we need to think about all year, not just at Christmas, not just at birthdays. But what can we give to our children? You see, when we're gone, the children are going to be what's left, and what's going to happen? You know, I wonder sometimes, will Richmond Hill congregation be here in 50 years? Only if we work teaching our children this is important and trying to get out to the world and learn others. We've got to have that idea about it. Well, we close the service with the invitation of our Lord. Some people say, well, why do you do that all the time? Well, there may be one or more in the audience who wants to obey the gospel, and I believe that needs to happen. You see, we need to remind people that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that God gave him willingly, and he came willingly. And they need to believe in Christ, that he's the Son of God. They need to repent of sin that's in their life and turn to God. They need to confess the name of Christ before others, to proclaim that they believe that Jesus is the Christ. And they have to be immersed in water for remission of their sins. And they need to understand that. They become a part of the family of God, Acts 2:47. And then we have to live faithfully. As we work on that, we've sinned, let's repent of those things and ask God to forgive us. If you want prayers, I'm glad to pray for you, no problem whatsoever. But know this, God loves you. He wants you to be saved and shed the blood of his Son was shed so that we can have salvation. What are we giving our children? Let's make sure we give them the best example of a child of God that we possibly can. That they'll be faithful children all the days of their life. And we can all go home and hear those words, well done, thou good and faithful son. You need to respond. Come down. We stand. Help me sing.